Hi, welcome to another episode of Beverages with Becky. Today we're going to review the state of Florida's Manatee Springs State Park. But first, the beverage on the docket is a margarita. So I am using Alto's white tequila with Zing Zang. You're probably more familiar with them for Bloody Mary mix, which unfortunately I don't like Bloody Marys, but I did see this in the store. It came in a 4-pack and it is an all natural margarita mix. So 1 shot of tequila and then this little baby and you got yourself the perfect margarita. So why don't we go ahead and pause right here so you can go get a cold one and then come meet me back. Welcome back. I hope you got yourself a tasty beverage. Now on to the park review. Manatee Springs State Park is 6 miles west of a town called Chiefland, and that is west of Gainesville, Florida, just north of Ocala, Florida. So more northern central Florida is where this park is located. It is nestled in a cypress tree forest with over 800 feet of boardwalk along the river. There is beautiful. This also has Florida's first magnitude spring. And a magnitude spring is a spring that releases an average of 100 million of gallon of water a day. That's million. It's crazy, and it is unbelievably blue, clear, and beautiful. Springs average 72 degrees year-round, which make it perfect for those hot summer days where it's averaging 90 to 100 degrees to jump in and cool off. And actually, when it's that hot outside, the springs feels really cold, so it does take your body a minute to get used to. The nice thing is as the temperature goes, the outside temperature goes down a little bit, the water stays the same, but it doesn't feel as cold. It's a crazy feeling to kind of feel the springs at different times a year. We were there in the summer of 2020, if you're watching this at a later date. So we were there a few months ago in August, and it was shortly after they started school back. So we got the park pretty much to ourselves. It was so nice. Also, due to COVID, they did restrict their numbers in the park, but I have a feeling this park is a small park nestled off the beaten path that it doesn't get super busy anyways. They only have so much room. So I have a feeling it's a gem, and it's a nice way to relax and definitely cool off in the summer. So one of the things I was reading about when I was there was that even Native Americans have been going to this spring for years. So, all of us here in Florida, or not all of us, but you know what I mean, have been just dipping our toes in or going all the way in on those hot summer days. So one of the other things the park features is over 8 miles of hiking trails, and it also has 3 camping loops. So not like all of state of Florida's park, but this park does actually accommodate 40-foot RVs. I have noticed it when we're booking spaces for other state parks here in Florida, that not all of them can accommodate the large units or RVs that some of you might have. So this one actually can. So, double check your site when you're doing that. The park also has the ability for day use, so if you are not camping or weren't able to get a spot but you really wanted to check it out, you could come in, get one of its day use passes. They are limited on the number of day use passes, at least right now, and I have a feeling they are in the future as well, just because the park is not a large park. It could only accommodate so many people. And then that way you get to enjoy the spring. A lot of people will do spring hopping, where there is a couple other sister springs in the area that are fairly close, within a 20-minute drive. So they will go to multiple springs throughout the day to kind of just check it off their bucket list. So that's also an option that you could do. So let's dig a little bit more into the campsites and what they are. We were actually secured, and we didn't realize it. I didn't realize it when I booked the site, but we booked a handicap site. So our site was a paved location, and I'll include the number here. but it had electric hookup, but it did not have electric and water, but did not have sewer. Our site, there was only a few, I'm going to say ours and one other on each of the 3 loops that were handicap accessible, that had the paved concrete site. All of the rest of the other sites were either dirt, grass, or some gravel sites. So I want to say we lucked out. It ended up being a nice feature for us, especially because we did take our dogs with us, that it kind of kept them a little bit cleaner than than probably normal if it was dirty. The one thing I could see, and I will go over this in the pros and cons, is it could get a little muddy there. But they were nicely set up. The hookups were well maintained. You could tell they maintained the park, and they did maintain the sites afterwards. They had bathrooms that were centrally located, that were easily accessible and clean. So that was an overall good experience for us. So before I start repeating myself, which I know sometimes I do, let's just go ahead and talk about the pros and the cons of Manatee Springs State Park. So really the cons are limited. I don't have too many. Our overall experience was great. One of the things I would say is ticks, because one of my pros is the wildlife. Deer are roaming the park and roaming through the campsites. That also, deer have ticks, so the ticks were more prevalent at this park, and if you read some of the reviews, it'll say that, so just be prepared for that. I got a couple of ticks on me, but we tick checked ourselves every single day. And so I caught them early, or you feel them. I actually felt them crawling on me and was able to get them off and kill them. But my dogs didn't have any ticks, and neither did Mike. Mike never did get any ticks. So interesting that, you know, I guess I'm just so sweet, is why I was the one that had and I only had 2 crawl on me, and we were there for 3 days. So not too bad. You are out in the woods, so I think that's, you know, one of the positives about the park, is that you are in this beautiful oak trees and cypress trees and pine trees, that of course you're gonna have bugs out there. So that's really my only, I would say, con, if there is one, is the ticks. But the rest of the park, the spring was awesome. You could walk to the springs from your campsite. It was a short walk. Their hiking trails were beautiful and well maintained. We didn't actually eat from the concession stand, but it smelled amazing. So the concession stand was up and running even during all of the pandemic stuff. They were doing everything very safely, which I felt safe the entire time I was there. Their bathrooms were maintained, as well as the common areas were really well maintained. And I would say the number one highlight for me was the deer. I mean, the deer would walk right through campsites and right through the loops, the camping loops. And I don't know if it's because they're so used to people that it didn't bother them, or I don't know, but I almost felt like I kind of had like a Disney experience, like animals coming up to you. You know, they didn't actually come up to us, but they definitely walked by us with our dogs and all. So that was really neat. The trail system, as I mentioned before, we like to hike. We like to get out there and hike, and it was nice. We took our dogs and they enjoyed it. Well, they seemed to enjoy it. So that was, and they're, you know, shaded, so you weren't in the sun the whole time. So that was really nice. And you know, the main reason people go is for the springs, and it was awesome. The water was blue. The water was nice and 72 degrees, as I mentioned before. And it was just so refreshing, and you could tell everyone enjoyed it, and they have a very nice setup there. So it is a natural spring. So what some people might not realize is when it goes through the aquifer system and the water comes out, it also pushes out different things into the water, like algae or seaweed or things like that. So you will see sometimes these things floating by you, but there's rock area that you could kind of sit and catch your breath. It is fairly deep this spring, so I couldn't make it down to the bottom. I don't know the exact depth of it, but it was a deep spring, and it moves pretty fast. So you almost had not a flume type, but you know, you could almost float down. The current would take you down, then you can get out, walk back, and get back in and float down again. So that was a nice experience as well. They had cypress trees going around the entire spring. They kept it natural, which is really nice. Sometimes you don't see that. You'll see the clear the land back. So not at this spring. They kept it all natural. They have a boardwalk system on one side of it, and then as well as their, you know, the 800-foot boardwalk off of the spring as well. So that was kind of neat. Unfortunately, we could not go on the boardwalk because it was closed due to COVID. I'm not really sure why, but I guess maybe it's not wide enough that you could pass safely is the only thing I could think of. But I mean, you're out there in the middle of nowhere, wide open spaces with big, beautiful skies. So it would have been really neat to be able to walk along that, because the boardwalk does go along the river as well. So that would have been kind of neat to experience. And that river does, if you rent the paddleboard or kayak, will also can take you, and it connects, if my memory serves me correctly, to the St. Johns River. Or the Swanee. I'm not sure which one. I'll have to check on that, and I'll include it in here. So that's really neat. We did not do that. We just felt like we didn't have enough time. Like I said, we stayed 3 days. One day got there set up, one full day in the park, doing, you know, swimming and hiking and things like that. And then, another day, and we left later that afternoon. I would almost say you could easily spend 4 days in this park. It's small, but you can. There's just so much to do, because one, you want to go to the spring every day and take a dip. So we definitely felt like we could go stay another day and be satisfied and entertained that we did. So I would recommend, if you can get it, you could book this park if you're camping 11 months out, and I would try to get it for 4 days, but a quick weekend trip, which we did, was perfectly fine as well. So I hope you enjoyed this review, and I hope you join me back next time for Beverages with Becky.